So I'm so excited to bring the filmmaker out. I introduced his first feature in 2002. Do you guys remember City of God? Groundbreaking film. It just announced the presence of an incredible new voice on the international film scene. He also, this won the TIFF Visions Award that year. He also shot a film in Toronto. Did you guys see Blindness? He shot that here. He showed it here at TIFF. Also the film 360. And I'm so excited to have him here with this film, The Two Popes. There's been a lot of buzz about this film, and it's because it's incredible. And I'm so happy that he's with us today. Please welcome Fernando Meirelles. You're taller.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Netflix for being so supportive in all this process. Sarah Brenner, Scott, the whole team is really impressive people to work with. Thank you very much. Yeah, they're really amazing experience. I'm not very optimistic about the world. I don't know if you all feel the same. There's something out of place, I think, in the whole world. Wherever you look to, it's really... And I think Pope Francis is one of the most important voices today. He's the one who's trying to build bridges while everybody else is trying to build walls. And so I think he's really... I'm a big admirer of him. I think one of the reasons for me to make this film was the possibility of knowing him better, to check where his ideas comes from, and in some way support to spread what he's talking about. We're building like a dystopian world, I think, and he's really fighting. One of the few voices fighting against. Anyway, and that was the reason I did it. I'm going to be very short because we have a Q&A. I just would like to introduce our crew. So our producers, who I thank very much, Danlene, is from Right Back Productions. Thank you, Danlene. And Jonathan Irick. My British producer, Tracy Seward. My sister, actually, my big friend. We worked together in Constant Gardener. It's also here the writer, this brilliant writer, the script, as you'll see, it's amazing. Anthony McCarthy, here's this. Sorry, I would like to also thank our Argentinian producers that are here somewhere, Matias and Lecha from KS in Argentina. And now our young Pope, Juan Menorin, amazing actor from Argentina. And finally, Your Holiness, please, the Pope. Just a short thing.
I just want to say thank you for inviting us here. I think you're in for a surprise if you think it's just two men talking. And the other man who I talked to sends his apologies, Anthony Hopkins, sent me this email to apologize for not being able to be here tonight, and he wanted me to tell you that he said, Jonathan Pryce is the greatest Welsh actor I have ever worked with.
He is.
Tell you.
That's it.
So generous, so generous. Okay, great, thank you.
Enjoy it, we'll be back.
I loved what you said at the beginning. In this crazy world, Pope Francis offers us hope. I want you to tell us how how this film came to being.
Well, in 2015, Danlene, the producer, asked me if I was interested in a film on the Pope. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I can consider because I like him. Yeah. And but then I was busy doing something else, and I almost forgot. Yeah. And then came a script. So he can tell how the script started.
Well, I'm for my sins, I'm a Catholic. Very large family, 8 children. We we were always very cognizant of the role of the clergy in our lives. We had priests visit the house, we had bishops. So in 2013, when Pope Benedict resigned, it was a cataclysmic event. It had never happened in 700 years. And the question immediately arose as to what motivated that resignation. And from that interest and curiosity came this story.
Yeah, because that was an unprecedented event. Okay, I'm curious, how did you research how that happened? I mean, how that came to be, or how much is true, or how much is pure fancy?
Well, they met several times, so we know the meetings took place. We don't know what was said during those meetings. So I did a lot of research into their stated and well-known positions on various subjects. And what was a great gift is that they are polar opposites. They really do not agree on almost anything, which made it interesting because we live in a world where there's great polarization, and there are many, many examples of countries and political situations and institutions where nobody can agree on anything. And one of my favorite lines in the movie, if I do say so myself, is sometimes the hardest thing is to listen. And I think we have a crisis of non-listening in the world. And until we start to listen to, those on the other side of our views, then I think we're going to stay in crisis.
And so, Jonathan, how did you get to this role? How did they find you? What attracted you?
How did they find me?
I mean,
I got a back catalogue. The day Pope Francis was declared Pope, the internet was awash with images of him and me together. And everyone wondering which was the real Pope. And even one of my sons texted me and said, "Dad, are you the Pope?" I wasn't particularly flattered, but I can see why they came to me. But I'm glad they came to me because it was absolutely one of the best things I could have read, and the opportunity of working with Fernando, of whom I've been a fan of since City of God. And I just knew if he was making it, it wasn't going to be two old men sitting down talking. It was going to be a film about something, and about ideas, and about philosophy, and a film made with a great deal of energy and movement. And so I was thrilled that it came to me.
Just complete
that's
something.
beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah, just complete something that you might not know. It's true, I saw you in Google, it's true. But then I watched some of your films, and I watched an interview that you were against a white, this interview? You're sitting in a little chair in a white studio, and you're playing yourself. And that's when I felt that you have the same spirit. You're very light and very humble and very warm. There was this, and I said, well, this guy feels like the Pope. Not only looks like the Pope, and that's why. It was not because you're acting, but it was because of you.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Well, it's true.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, that is beautiful. Juan, you are the only Argentine here. And just talk about a little bit about how you got into the project and what was important about playing the young Pope Francis for you.
Well, it was very, very important for me. This is my first time playing a living character, and a huge living character. And of course, I'm also a very huge fan of Fernando's work, and also Jonathan. I've been admiring his work for my whole life, actually. And as soon as I read the script, I mean, everything was really great. I'm a little bit in shock because this is my first time watching the movie. So yeah, and I think it's fantastic. I have to say, no, really, this is the first time. So I must say this. Of course, also it's very, very special for me to be to play this role in this movie with these two amazing actors, Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan, and so it's very special for me. Yeah.
Very special. Were a lot of you crying at the end? I was very moved, and it's something. Yeah, thank you. It provides a lot of hope, as you say. This between these polarized subjects, this dialogue that emerges, which is wonderful.
We need to tango more.
Definitely need tango. That's true. I'd like to open up the questions to the audience. Does anyone have some inquietudes? Yes, right here.
Congratulations for the film. It's been beautiful. It's been moving, touching, everything. I love the combination of the languages, which makes it more appealing. So that also makes it more international and more welcoming and involving everyone. I'm just curious to know, how did you film the setting in the Sistine Chapel in Rome? That must have been extremely hard to film. Right.
I'm going to repeat. I mean, I think your comment about the mix of languages makes the film so much more international, which I also love. And the question was about the challenges of, filming the Sistine Chapel, Rome, and how you did that.
Well, it wasn't difficult, it was easy. Netflix is rich, so we built the Sistine Chapel. Yeah, we rented a teeny chita and we built the whole thing. We had our own Sistine Chapel, and it was so great that we even had some yoga classes when we were not shooting. It's true. So, money is a great thing, isn't it?
Our Sistine Chapel is 5 centimeters bigger than the real Sistine Chapel, right?
You did a better.
I'd say they're rich and they
roomier.
all support. That's why I said in the beginning, very supportive.
So it was a roomier version? It was roomier, your Sistine Chapel?
5 centimeters bigger.
5 centimeters. So it was a roomier version of the.
It's the world's biggest Sistine Chapel.
That's amazing.
No, I have to say that the roof is 3D, only the roof and the.
Amazing. That's incredible. Yeah, a question up here. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, this is a general question, and any one of the four could answer it. I appreciate the word that you were saying, particularly scriptwriter, about all these things that are happening worldwide. And this is a very tense moment for 45 million people in the Southern Cone. So it seems that your film, the one that all of you have created, will cause a lot of emotions. I'm not sure if it's going to cause more divisiveness or polarization after the movie, or more unity. Could you comment on, you understand the situation that Argentina is living in as we speak?
Right. So in the southern tip of the continent, in El Cono Sur, Argentina, the film. The question is about how the film will be received. Will it create more unity, divisiveness? Have you thought about this?
Well, if the message of forgiveness is lost when audiences see this, then we've completely failed. Because that's the point where they all get to, is that we're all sinners. We've all made mistakes. Can you survive being a sinner? Can it somehow enrich in you if you actually acknowledge that you're a sinner? Does that make you potentially a better leader if you've wrestled with that fact that we're all flawed? I just hope that you can't control the impact of any work of art that you do. It's open to interpretation. It must be, and it should be. But we would hope that at least that gets through.
See?
Indoors.
Yes. I'm going to get up so I can see. Any other questions from the audience? Up there, there's always something at the balcony. Yes, right there. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I'm interested to know if the Vatican had any input. More importantly, has the Holy Father seen the movie?
All right. So has the Vatican have any input, and has the Holy Father seen the film?
No, they were not involved. We used some of their footage, but that was all. All the locations, everything, we had to shoot around the Vatican. And I hope the Pope watches the film, but I think even if he does it, he won't tell us, so I will never know. That's true, I think he won't, because what will he say? Will he agree with the film, or I mean, he can't, he should be quiet, I think.
That is true.
Fernando,
I would love to of course, to
Maybe-
watch with him, but
people might be interested to know that you actually shook his hand and you told him about this project.
Would you?
You met Francis and shook his hand.
St. Peter's Square.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I just shook his hand. I mean, it's true. I mean, when you know, on those ceremonies that he comes and shake hands, I was one of the hands to be shaken. And when he came to me, I told him, you know, I'm here with a crew. We're making a film on you. We have Anthony Hopkins. We have Jonathan Pryce. And he said, who couldn't care less? He said, oh, good, and just moved. So, not sure if he's gonna watch it. He really didn't give a damn for doing it.
He has bigger fish to fry.
At least you tried. At least. Any other? Do we have some more questions from the audience? I see one at the back there, and I'll get to you next. Yeah.
What is the significance of the music? Like there seems to be a lot of ABBA coming up and like the best of the music
Right.
and stuff. So I just wanted to know what was the thinking behind that.
Right. So the questions about the music. There's ABBA. There's Bésame Mucho. If you can comment on the music in the film.
Yeah, Bésame Mucho opens and closes the film, so there's some. But I mean, ABBA was in the script, wasn't it? No, it was a popular
ABBA was
song.
in the script.
What?
Yeah. ABBA was in the script.
ABBA was
yeah.
in the script, so we just followed. And I think using popular music, known music, has to do with Francis. One thing that I wanted and I pushed in was using, in some important moments of the film, like when Bergoglio goes to the church and he hears the call, there's a jazz playing inside, and then when he goes alone inside the Sistine Chapel, there's jazz again. In some moments we see there's this jazz thing, because for me jazz is a music that is very alive, so it's very related to Francis, while classical music and this would be more the German guy, right? And so we used intentionally a lot of jazz because it's very Michelangelo and it's very Francis, I think, very alive. But this is just my...
We have time for 2 more questions. I'll get to you, I promise, but someone I had already told them. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Right. Yeah. So the questions about the tone, it could be, you know, there's a lot of heavy subjects and moments, but there's a lot of levity in the script, and how you did that, how you managed that.
I was just trying to make it lifelike. My presumption is that when 2 people gather together, there's at least an attempt at humor. And in my life, I've seldom found any exception to that. So I don't try to put comedy into dramas, but I don't consciously leave comedy out. And I'm quite perturbed sometimes by any drama that pretends to be lifelike, that doesn't have comedy in it, because that doesn't seem to me to be lifelike. So Francis has a lot of humor in him, so it was natural to me to find humor because it's humanizing.
Thank you. And we have time. Yeah, last question. Go ahead.
Just Mr. Meirelles and Mr. Pryce, about the work with Anthony Hopkins, and not that I mean talking behind his back, but just a little bit, you know, just to say your experience with him and how did he get the role? Like, was he super crazy excited about it? And the work with him together, I think it's unbelievable.
Yes, I agree. So the questions about working with Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Pryce and his work together is unbelievable, wonderful. And if you can just talk a little bit about working with him.
Well, it was things came about by chance. I mean, there was no way to predict how Tony and I would work together or how well we would work together. But and I think it's a bit in retrospect that I saw something in the script and something in Francis when he goes to meet the Pope. He's in awe of him. He's in awe of the office, and he respects the office. And I was a bit like that when I started working with Tony. He's someone I've revered all my life. We're fellow Welshmen. I felt an affinity towards him because of that. But I was kind of wary, and there was a feeling of, from me, a feeling of awe about him, and that you see it plays into the scenes together, and then we became great friends, and we made each other laugh a lot, not necessarily during the scenes, but between the scenes and after the scenes, and there was a bit of rivalry between us, because I don't know if you know about call sheets, but the actor's call sheet, you're numbered in kind of superiority, and I was number 1 and Tony was number 2. He's not used to being number 2. And he would try to do things like change the number on my trailer. It's true. And put it on his. He had huge signs made for his trailer, so how great it was. He did send me a message. I mean, it was a joke message earlier, but he did send me a message and saying, if you're talking to the press, please don't tell them my trailer was smaller than yours. But we email each other constantly, and he refers to me as number 1, and he is Sir number 2.
It's true.
Fernando?
Me, I mean, I think my job here with those 2 directors is just shut up and let them do their thing, right? No, I think the only thing I was asking from the beginning is to make it very intimate and very personal, because I wanted to show like the humanity of the 2 men, and not the institution, the Pope. That was it. But then, I mean, you don't need to say much. I mean, it's amazing. That's my feeling. I don't know if you have the same feeling that I mentioned this morning, that they're very different the way they work or they prepare the character. Tony is completely obsessed with words. So during 4 months, and I mean 4 or 5 months before we start shooting, he would send me emails saying that I'm going to replace this word, I'm going to change this line. And he tries to memorize the whole thing. Like 1 month before he starts, it's really all about the lines. While my feeling is that Jonathan is much more trying to get the feeling of the character, the body language, and really the feeling, how he feels about the others. So it's a different approach. Both of them work. I mean, we've seen it, but do you think it's the same?
No, it's very.
Yeah?
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
You would be more jazz, and he'd be more, go for the book.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool. Thank you.
No, I mean, classical is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and also Fernando's direction. He says you don't have to do much, but he's not one of those directors who says, well, try it this way, try it that way. They don't really know what he wants. Fernando knows what he wants, and you trust him as an actor that he will correct you if it's not what he wants. And there's a wonderful feeling of security when you're working with him, that you can just get on with doing it. And yeah, I rarely say this about anything I do, but I'm so proud of this film and Fernando's achievement. It's just extraordinary.
Oh, thank you.
Well, from all of us here in Toronto, we're so grateful to have gotten the chance to speak with you, to see this film. Thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for coming to present it here at TIFF.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.